just been to the most enjoyable funeral I have ever been to in my life. I've never seen a reception like it. The crust cut off the sandwiches, the skin taken off the black puddings, at the funeral, a lid on the coffin, and the funny thing is that I never knew the bloke who was in the coffin. A week last Tuesday, there's me, Harry Armitage, Charlie Hollindale, Fred Taunton, in the Goat and Compasses, and in came Harry's brother-in-law, Sid. Now, he's a teetotaler. Yes. Oh, there are them about. I'm not joking. Well, he carries it to extremes. He won't even use a spirit level. And he said, you know that I'm a funeral director. He said, I've got a bit of a problem. I will say this for Sid. He's a good funeral director. Got his own black clothes, everything, and he is the head one of all the undertakers in the area, and he really has tried to raise the standards of the profession. I mean, last year, that bloke down High Street, we'd been down one night, we even left before the pub closed. We couldn't believe this bloke. He said, have you seen the sign at the Chapel of Rest down High Street? A neon sign over the chapel door, flashing on and off, day and night, saying, if you don't die, we can't live. And I mean, now. So I said, well, what is this problem, Sid? He said, well, I've got 2 funerals at one and the same time. I've got enough hearses and cars and drivers, but he said, I'm looking for bearers. He said, would you 3 like to do it? Well, naturally, Charlie said, what's in it for us? He said, 3 quid each and any flowers that fall off the top. I said, oh. Anyway, he said, now, when we buried this bloke, and at this very moment, I'm standing at the side of the hearse, looking through the glass at the side, and I said, a bloke? I said, because the name on here is Fiona. He says, blimey. He says, my brother's taken the wrong coffin. Quick, pile in. He says, we'll catch him before he sets off. Fred, Harry and Charlie can get in the front with me. He says, there's 4 seats. He said, and you climb in the back and lie at the side of the coffin. And if you'd seen this woman at the bus stop when we pulled up at the traffic lights, and I waved to her, oh. And we managed to do the swap. We got back, get the coffin on our shoulders. Sid's in front, walking there. He said, feet first. Charlie said, it's the only way I know how to walk, Sid. And when it's all over, the widow was so pleased, she invited us back for the reception. She said, excuse me, she said, would you and your friends care to join me over here? We go and join her, and I said, you must feel very proud. She said, oh, yes. Oh, I wish he could have been here to see it. I thought, well, if he had, we wouldn't have, But I didn't like to say anything and rub it in. And she said, yes, he was a good husband. She said, he was always other people first, never self. All the time we were married, he never took a job in case it put another man out of work. Our coal had, when it's full, it weighs nearly 1/2 weight. It didn't matter to Albert. That hod was never carried up our cellar steps, but what he was there holding the door open for me at the top. And she was looking at my mate Fred, and I thought we ought to get out of here because Fred's very susceptible. So we thanked her for the booze because we'd got most of it in our pockets, and we went off. And the following Tuesday, there's me, Harry, Charlie and Fred in the Goat and Compasses having a quick lunchtime drink. Well, we've been there about 3 hours having it. And I said, we're never going to get on the bus. Drink up, we'll go now. He said, you don't need buses. I said, why? He said, I've got a car. The wife's uncle left it to me in his will. It's in the car park at the back, so we went and had a look at it. His wife's uncle must have hated the sight of Charlie to have left him. I said, we can't drive round in this. We'll be the laughingstock of the neighbourhood. He said, are you insinuating the car is old? I said, nobody's saying the car's old at all, Charlie. Don't be so sensitive. I said, all I'm saying is you'll have a hell of a job getting new wicks for the headlamp. So we go back in the pub, and he says, the next thing is, who's going to teach me how to drive? Harry says, well, I'll teach you, Charlie. Do you feel confident? He says, no. So we bought him 4 pints of draft confidence. He said, now, in the first place, what order do the traffic lights change in? Charlie says, one after the other, I thought was right. So Fred says, well, you stop here, and I'll go and wind the handle, which he did. My word, he's strong, is old Harry. At one time, Harry's feet were still on the ground, and we were turning over in midair. After a bit, Charlie yelled out, he said, here, hang on, I've got to turn this switch, and then it'll start. And he turned the switch, hadn't it started? 2 of the lads helped Harry down off the pub roof. And he got in the car. He says, now, Charlie, you'll find out what them 3 pedals is for on the floor when you come to press it. He says, shove that lever in one of them slots and press one of the pedals. What Charlie thought was the foot brake turned out to be the accelerator. We shot out of that yard into the main road at about 58 miles an hour, right in front of a bus. Harry says to Charlie, ignore what that bus driver just told you to do. He's probably feeling a bit liverish. He says, in the first place, you can prove to him that your mother and father got married. In the second place, what he advised you to do with this car was a physical impossibility. Even with the hood down. So, we're going up the main street. I mean, Charlie did very well, really. So did the people that managed to get out of his way, you know. And after about half an hour of it, Harry says to him, next time you go through the co-op, Charlie, pull up at the fag counter. You know, without a thing. Well, I think, I must be truthful about this. Yeah, I think it was Harry that first noticed this copper on point duty in the middle of the road. So he says, give him a hand signal, Charlie. And Charlie did. Harry says, well, I didn't mean that particular one. Charlie says, shall I go back and have a word with him? Harry says, I shouldn't bother, he'll never hear you from the top of that telegraph pole, you know. He said, just drive round his trousers and underpants in the middle of the crossroads and get us back to the pub. Well, we got back to the pub. Charlie had no trouble there whatever in stopping the car. He ran it down the cellar steps. Now, if he'd been about 4 feet to the left, Harry would have gone through the open door. As it was, he went through the public bar window. And when we got in, Harry was lying there looking a bit the worse for wear. And I said, is he dead? You know, of course. I thought, if he is, I mean, we'll go to another pub. And the chap says, I don't know. He said, hold a mirror over his mouth, and if he's still breathing, it'll steam up. So we held this mirror over Harry's mouth, and the silver fell off the back of the mirror. I said, oh, he's still with us. He's still with us. I said, let's get him to hospital. Borrow a bike, Charlie, we'll take him on the crossbar. We got Harry on this bike, and Charlie, fair, did his best to pedal. For Harry's sake, it would have been better if it had been a man's bike with a crossbar. I have never in my life heard a grown man reach such a high note. Because they're very powerful, them sprockets. Well, we get him to hospital. Have you ever tried to get anyone admitted into hospital? Don't matter if the head's hanging off. They cannot go in until the form is filled in. I look at the bloke in the desk. I said, oh, I'll fill the form in. So I filled the form in, gave it in to him. He handed it straight back. He said, I'm not accepting that. He said, well, apart from the spelling, in the first place, where it says nearest dependents, you should have put his wife, not the landlord of the Lamb and Flag. He said, and in the second place, where it says sex, you should have written male, not hardly ever. So we altered all that. I said to Charlie, we'd better go and tell his wife, you never know, she may miss him. And we get to Harry's house. She said, there you are. Nobody's been to tell me where my husband is, but you two have been out drinking beer, enjoying yourself. I've been here, worried stiff, out of my head, doing the washing and the ironing, trying to take my mind off what had happened to him. She said, and you've been out drinking beer. Charlie said, just a minute, Mrs. Just a minute. Took a pint bottle out of his pocket, first reserve, took the top off, he gave it to her. He said, have a drink of that. She said, you know I did. He said, have a drink. Oh, he was living. She did. You should have seen her. She coughed and spluttered, spit it out. She said, good heavens, it's filthy. I don't know how you can go out drinking it. There you are, he said, and you said we'd been out enjoying ourselves. Hey, I'll have to go. So long for now. Bye.